going to have to take you around more often. It's great to be here. This is a really beautiful venue, and you can see people everywhere. I thought I would share a few ideas with you, but I'll try not to be redundant with the movie itself. But first I'll make a comment about the movie. People have been approaching me, this was 4 or 5 years ago, to follow me around and make a movie. I tend to make important decisions quickly. I met my wife 37 years ago, and we were very quickly engaged. And I met Barry, his lovely wife Felicia. Something about their email seemed compelling to me, so I met. It was in San Francisco, right? About 4.5 years ago. 4 years. Yeah. I very quickly said okay, and then they followed me around for years. 5 different continents. You get used to that. And it was kind of a leap of faith that this would work out well, which I think it did. I mean, I'm comfortable with the depiction of the ideas. It's really easy to get them wrong, but the depiction of both point and counterpoint, the controversies are very well presented. It's a beautiful movie, and it also interleaves my personal story in a way that I was comfortable with. At least I felt actually that was me. It gets almost uncomfortable sometimes. You just really see yourself, but I think it's a very honest portrayal, and it does make the link between my personal story and my ideas. And actually the main reason I did this was I thought I'd learn something about myself, which I really did. Just seeing myself depicted personally, seeing and appreciating the relationship I had with my father and how that had an impression on my ideas about life and death, about health, about music and creativity. I learned a lot about it. Maybe other viewers will as well. The movie actually has been very well received. It's the #2 documentary in the United States right now on iTunes. And actually it's very highly rated. 86% of the viewers give it 5 stars out of 5 stars. So. And it's a beautiful movie, just the way it's portrayed, the cinematography is I think, very moving. It's interesting how quickly things are continuing to develop. There's been major developments just since the movie was finished, and it was just finished. I remember I wrote in the early 80s, in my first book, The Age of Intelligent Machines, that a computer would take the World Chess Championship by '98. And I also wrote that when that happened, we would immediately then dismiss chess, which at that time was kind of an exemplar of human intellect and creativity. And we would then, but once a computer could do it, we would say, that's not really such an intelligent game after all. And that is exactly what happened in 1997 when Deep Blue defeated Kasparov. And we said, well, that's the kind of thing you really would expect a computer to be able to do, because it's really just a logic game. It can quickly calculate the kind of move possibilities. There's actually a little bit more to it, but I tended actually to agree with that assessment that chess is the kind of thing you'd expect a computer to do well at early on. But a lot of observers said, well, but computers will never deal with the subtleties and vagaries and ambiguities and complexities of human language, particularly when you don't know what's coming. You don't know if the next thing is a metaphor or a joke or a pun or a simile or expressing irony or satire. Human language is very unpredictable and supple and subtle. Computers will never deal with that. So I wouldn't say the issue is settled, but I mean, I think Watson's victory on Jeopardy was impressive, and it's harder to dismiss it, because it's viscerally impressive. If you watch Deep Blue play chess and it makes a move, there's no visceral reaction. I mean, 99% at least of the viewers, including me, can't tell if that's an okay move or a great move. You don't see the movie and go, wow. But you watch Jeopardy, you do say that. Whoa, and I'm just beginning to figure out, okay, that's really a metaphor, and it's got the answer. It does turn out it's not at human levels in terms of its understanding of language. It makes up for that by having read hundreds of thousands of pages, all of Wikipedia, whole encyclopedias. I could do that too. I could sit and read all of Wikipedia. I wouldn't remember very much of it. It remembers all of that stuff. And it brings up actually an interesting point about artificial intelligence, that as certain levels of understanding are achieved, it can then apply that to a vast amount of material. I mean, look at a search engine. It's kind of mastered all the web without very much understanding at all, but it creates something very powerful. So Watson actually has a lot more understanding than a typical search engine. You can see from some of the mistakes it made, it's not quite operating at human levels, but it has mastered all of this knowledge. And it's, you know, if Watson were the last thing that were ever done in AI, we looked at, okay, AI is done, let's see how we did. I would agree that we did not achieve the human level of intelligence, but we're not done. It's a milestone. It's a very encouraging one. It's really hard to argue that, well, computers will never understand the subtleties of language. Some of the language that it dealt with was pretty darn subtle. And there are other things going on, like Google cars, which have logged 140,000 miles in California, driving through congested cities and towns without human drivers. There's actually a human in the car ready to take over, but they don't take over. And this, ultimately, they will prove to be better than human drivers. That's actually not a very difficult measurement. So, my primary thesis is that computers will achieve human levels of intelligence by 2029. They'll then, like Watson does, be able to apply that to, you know, billions or more pages of material. I mean, keep in mind that Watson didn't just have to read this little query, which has complicated language. It read all this material on the web. It was not hand-coded, all that knowledge. It just read, you know, Wikipedia and other encyclopedias, which are written in natural language, and it has to understand that too. So when it does achieve human levels of intelligence, it can master all of human knowledge. But the last important point is that this is not some alien invasion of these machines from Mars to displace us. We're creating these tools to make ourselves smarter. Ever since we picked up a stick to reach a higher branch, we've used these tools to extend our reach physically, now intellectually, and we're going to literally merge with them, and you'll see that discussion in the movie, but we're going to put them in our bodies and brains, and people are doing that already. You know, today it requires surgery, for example, to put the pea-sized computer that replaces certain biological neurons in sort of Parkinson's disease, but ultimately these things will be the size of blood cells. And as the movie does point out, you know, this is 1 billion times more powerful per dollar than the computer I used as a student. And we'll do it again in 25 years. And it's also a little bit smaller than that building-sized computer. And this will be the size of a blood cell in 25 years. You may have noticed the cover of Economist recently had a picture of a violin, which was printed out on a three-dimensional printer. So we have already an industry of 3D printers that can print out a broad variety of products from an information fund. So if I want to send you today, let's say, a movie or a sound recording or a book, I can send you an email attachment that used to require a FedEx package only a few years ago. So I can now send you a violin and certain other things. The scale of precision of these 3D printers right now is 100 microns, but that's shrinking at a rate of 100 3D volume per decade. So that really will be nanotechnology, where we'll be assembling things from molecules and molecular fragments by the 2020s, and I can really email you almost anything, like a blouse or a solar panel or a module to build housing, and so on. And one point I'll make, which is in the movie, but it really bears repeating, because as John